Welcome back everyone to the Hello World Guy, and this is episode number 4 if I'm not wrong of the series in which we are creating an instant runner using Unity's visual scripting system. And in this video we are going to add animations to our player and the obstacles, and then we are going to also add in a score counter. So first, for the animations, I'm going to go under window and then package manager to open up the package manager here. And what you can do is go under my assets and just let it, I will have a link to the assets that we are using in the description, of course, so that you can use it as well if you want to. But you can see that it is refreshing the assets, and once it has done that, I'm going to just select the Sunnyline package now and then hit import. We are going to import everything, so we might not need everything literally, but let's just import it. And yeah, that looks nice. And once we have done that, you can see that in the scene view, I've got nothing. But if I go under my project, we've got Sunnyline folder here, and in here I'm going to go under artwork, sprites, and first of all, I think it's time for us to add a sprite to the player. So if I go under the player and I go under this running animation and I try to select all of these, make sure that pixels per unit is 8 and point no filter, and make sure that none compression, and hit apply. Once you do that, I'm just going to select all of these and drag it into here, and it should automatically detect we are making an animation. Go under the asset folder, create a new folder here called animations, and then just save it as player. Okay, and what we can do here is that we can go under our animations and rename this to player as well, player, and yeah, just make it correct. And now I think what we can do is that make sure that this is looping. Then we can select our player, and for the color I'm just going to make it white, and for the actual sprite I'm just going to go ahead and choose, I don't know, player run. Just use player run. I'm going to just use the first run sprite. Alright, that looks nice, I guess, but it's a bit too large really. Maybe you might want to scale the player down to something like 0.75. Alright, now what I can do, actually the player is still a bit large, maybe 0.65. Alright, now what I can do is that I can close down these and then just go ahead and drag this player animator to this. And once you do that, what you should see is that our player seems like he's running. And let me just hit the play button and let's see if it actually works. And yeah, you can see that it's pretty much working, but not really. Okay, so the reason it's not completely working is that if I select my player and go to the box collider and I hit this button and let me go here, you can see that it's definitely not correct. So I will have to scale this until it's right, because it is currently wrong, and just make it perfect. And then what we can do is now we can hit play, and now this should actually work. So let's just try it out, and you can see that the player now goes down, and yeah, he's working, and it seems like he's jumping, working. Okay, but the feet is not working, because we also need to select our feet, and then we need to move that down quite a bit on the Y. Something like -2 should work pretty fine. Once we do that, so everything should basically work. So let's see, and the player, and like once the game starts, what you should see is that our player is perfectly displaying an animation. We can also jump, and the game is also over when it's supposed to. And yeah, that seems pretty nice. So yeah, we have got a working system now, and I think that now we should go ahead and add some sprites to our obstacles or enemies or whatever as well. For this, I'm going to open up the enemy slash frog slash idle folder here in our Sunnyland package, when I'm going to just drag these so that we create an animation for this, and just go under your animation folder and save it as the frog, I guess, because our obstacles are just going to be frogs that are just standing there, I guess. And what we can do is we can, I'm going to select my obstacle and make sure that we, well, let me just do this. Okay, let's just go under here and let's rename this to frog, and let's just try adding the frog animation to our obstacle. So if I just go under here, open up my obstacle, and then I go under animations, and then I try to drag this component like that, you can see that it has got a frog controller here. And if I were to hit play right now, it shouldn't be really working because we haven't scaled it properly yet. So let's just see. So you can see that, oh, that That's really terrible. The frogs are red and they are very small. So yeah, of course we need to fix that. For this though, all we need to do is open up our obstacle class. Alright, make sure that the scene view, and make sure that the sprite renderer has got it's currently square, but if I go under control 6 to open up the animation window and then I go under here and I hit play, you can see that it goes down extremely small size, even though our box is currently really large. So if I just were to go ahead in my project slash Sunnyland slash artwork slash sprites and enemies and open up the frog, and I'm going to just select these and make it something like 16, then that should cause a pretty big difference. If I select my obstacle now, you can see that the box collider is now very small actually. So let's just increase the box collider size a little bit, like that. Alright, it's not perfectly square now. So if I go back now and of course select the obstacle, and I do not think we want to have red color here. Also you might want to change this to frog as well, because really it doesn't make much sense to have it like this. So yeah, that looks really nice. So now what I can do is go under my game view, and if I hit play now, what you should see that our player also works, and we have also got frogs in our way instead of what we had before. So let's see, and you can see that our player is running and we have got frogs here, and that looks terrible really because you can see that it is just not working. The frogs are extremely large, even though they should not be that large, and the reason is that our obstacle is located too low. So if I go here, you can see that it is too low, and if I were to increase its y until like that, is just select this, you can see that it's working. And now this should actually work, because our it doesn't really, it had a rigid body to prevent it from going down. So yeah, now it's going to work now. So let's just try it out, and you can see that the frogs are there and I can jump over them. And by the way, they are quite large, and the frogs that are coming after this one are actually lower. So yeah, that's kind of a problem. I am not quite sure why. But the reason is maybe because if I go under and select my obstacle spawn point, then you can see that oh, that's not right. So just select the obstacle and make sure that it's negative 2.07 instead of 37, and yeah, that should start to work. And the player needs to have a higher jump force, because the foxes are quite frogs are quite large. So I'm just going to make this 9, and then what I'm going to do is also increase the, maybe you want to increase the gravity scale and then increase this further, so then 15. Let's try this out. Let's see how it works. Just play around with the values until you get something that you like. So you can see that our jumping feels should feel a lot better now. Okay, it's way too much. Our jumping was way too much. So just select the player, make sure that the jumping is lower. 10 should be enough. So let's hit play and check it out. Just choose something that you like and what feels right to you. It doesn't really matter. So let's just try, and you can see that the player is running and the frogs appear, and you can jump over them, and it's kind of still too low. uh, yeah, it's very low because the player is not that fast, and you might want to actually select the player, if I can actually find the player, and increase it to something like 12, and that I think is the final value that we are settling on. So just to a value that feels good for you, and we should be pretty much good on our way. So let's just try it out. And yeah, that looks really nice. It's still challenging enough to cause a player to sometimes, okay, that's a bit too challenging still, because I think the obstacles are kind of slow, uh, but if you are careful enough, you will manage it. So we are going to improve our obstacle spawning system in the next video. We should fix these problems, and we will our game should be done. But in this video we are going to add in a we are going to of course change this ground and add in a background scrolling one, along with adding in a a kind of core counter up here, which keeps track of how far you have gone. It will basically like be a meter counter using a time variable instead of having how much obstacles we have jumped over. So let's implement that now. Before we do that though, before we implement the counter, I'm going to just go under my Land and Artwork / environment folder, then drag this background in here. Now make sure that it has also got like 8 pixels or maybe 116, up to you, and make sure that it is located exactly at 0, 0. And if I go in here, you can see that it's pretty fine, and also make sure that its order in layer is negative, and just gonna go ahead and make it a little bit darker by decreasing the value of it. Just use HSV here and decrease the value. All right, now that that looks pretty nice. I think what we actually want now is a way for to make this scroll, because currently it's just standing there, doesn't look that good. Even if I were to hit play, you can see that yeah, our background is just standing there. It kind of doesn't move, which makes it look extremely unrealistic and terrible. So yeah, we need to solve that problem because it currently doesn't look that good. So before we do that, so let me just select my optical prefab, and make sure that in speed, let me just increase it to something like 7, and then we are going to also go ahead in my player, and we are going to reduce the spawn time to something, increase the spawn time to 2 seconds. Now it should be a little bit easier to handle the game, not as difficult. So let's try it out, and you can see that yeah, that looks better, really. And that nice, but of course it currently looks like that our player is standing and the frogs are coming towards us because our background is not moving. So we now need to make a scrolling background. Now for this, we are essentially going to do what we did in the previous series of Flappy Bird. We are basically going to add in a create a separate shader for this, and not a separate shader, just a separate material, which we can modify, and then we are going to modify it, which uses, by the way, the text mesh pro shader, which works. So we are going to add that and make it add tiling. So that's going to be hopefully really easy. So in order to do that, what I am going to do is I'm going to go under here and select this background thing. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead, instead of having this default material here, I'm going to right click and create a new material, and then call this Sprite, I guess, the Sprite. Then I'm going to take this material and drag it onto this, and you can see that's what it looks like. And what I'm going to do is make sure that it's not standard material. Go under here and find the if you just search for Sprite, by the way, choose the text mesh pro one. And now once you do that, we can actually program it to move. So what we can do is we can go ahead in our scripts. Actually we are using graphs now, I forgot. So for this, you can go under your graphs, or maybe you can embed it, but we are going to use a separate graph so that we can also reuse it if we want for something else like the ground. And in here, what I'm going to do is add in a visual scripting script graph here, called something like we can call it something like scroll. Okay, and what we can do is we can open up the script graph here, and we are, for the title, we are going to say scroll texture scroll, and we are going to say makes a sprite scroll using texture offset. So yeah, that's very nice. It's a good idea to have these kind of things, which makes it really a lot nice. And for this, we are going to add in a single Blackboard variable here, object variable. It's currently not attached to any object, so we are not able to add object variables. But if I go ahead and add this to our not our optical, the background. All right, let's just go under here and select and drag the background, and you can see it's currently okay, not added. And scroll. Okay, we need to add in visual scripting, I guess. We are going to add in a script machine, and we are going to drag this scroll in here. So now once we do that, we can go under our script graph, we can go under object, and we can add in a new variable called speed. All right, it should be a float and not null. Its value should be something like 1.5. And now we can actually start adding a logic for the spinning. All right, with that, then what I'm going to do is add in an on update method here, and in here in this method we are going to use a get renderer not get renderer. We are going to use a get component method. Alright, and for the type we will just say renderer, and yeah, that's nice. And once we have done that, you can go here and we can say get material to renderer get material, the renderer method, not something else. And once we have got that, what we can do is that we can say something like, we can actually, what we need to do is actually set the texture offset. So if I say set texture offset, and set texture offset, and you can see that it has also got the main texture offset variable. You can use this one if you want, and we're just going to do that. And for the actual offset, we need to of course set it to a specific value. Now for the x, I'm just going to go here and say create vector 2, and you need to hook that up for some reason. And for the x, what I can do is I can say multiply. All right, and we are going to multiply our speed with the time value. So we are just going to say time get time. All right, so we are going to just multiply it by that, and this should actually work. So let's just try it out and make sure that it's got it. So let's try hitting play and see if it actually functions. So as soon as the game starts, what you should see is that the background starts scrolling, and it's extremely fast, and you can see that doesn't really work. It looks really bad. Now to fix this, what we need to do is really simple. Just go under your Sunnyland artwork, environment, background, and go ahead here and make sure that in here wrap mode is set to repeat. Once you do that though, everything should work, provided that we slow it down a bit. It's currently way too fast, so I'm just going to make it 0.6. And let's try it out how it looks. So if I hit play now, what you should see is that our background starts scrolling pretty normally. And also this is a seamless texture, so it shouldn't cause any problems. Alright, so you can see that it's working and our player is running, and once we, yeah, that's pretty much working. So I think the next thing we want to add is our score counter, which is not going to be really difficult. We are just going to use a time variable for that as well. So this is working, and what I'm going to do now, in order to actually add that, we are going to right click here, create a UI text mesh pro here. You should immediately create a new canvas. This is going to be our score text. And what we are going to do here is that we are going to go up and make it go there and stretch it and make sure it's center aligned. And then for the text we are going to just say something like 10, and we are going to make it bold. Then we are going to increase its size quite a bit, maybe just make it auto sized, and make sure that y is set to 0 so that I can increase its height, and it doesn't really matter. Okay, y should be set to 1. Alright, so if I increase its height, you can see that the max is should not really exist. Anyways, I'm going to decrease it to something like that. It looks pretty nice with that. You might want to add, I don't know if there's an option to add a boundary to this, but if there is, you should find one. You can use that. But anyways, oh, by the way, there is an option of outline, so you can do this and you can add in a thickness. That looks really nice. What you can do is we can go under the script graph right now, and this is not what we want. We are going to go select my player, and then I'm going to open up this script graph, and then I'm going to look it here. And in here we are going to have go under object variables, and we are going to add in a new variable here called score text, and this is going to be of type text mesh pro UGI, this one. And what we are going to do here is that we are going to in our update methods, if I can actually find that, before we spawn the obstacle, we are going to set this to something like, well, we are going to add in another variable here called our score factor. Just going to call that, and by default it's going to be a float of value 1. And what we are going to do is we are going to go set score, okay, not get score text. We are going to get our score text here. I don't know if you can just drag it here to get it. And what we can do here is we can say set and text on this, and yeah, that should work. So for the text, what we are going to provide it with is essentially so if I get my, if I use the time property, so if I go time get time, all right, so this will get me the time, and we are going to multiply this by our score factor. So if I just drag my score factor in here, and I put this up in here, and with this we are going to set our we might just set our text to that, but this is going to cause a problem, as you can see. Let's just see, check it out, and of course make sure that you have make sure that you have dragged this in here before you actually run the game. So now when we actually run the game, what you should see is that it's not really working, so you should understand what I mean. And system.single to system.string. Alright, it was an invalid conversion, it didn't actually work. So you might go and say parse, we have got float parse options, and value, okay, so let me just say string, but we can just use that toString function. I was kind of trying to, so float toString. Alright, and we can plug this in here, and then this in here, and then you can plug this in here. Alright, this should actually work, so let's go ahead and hit play, and we should there's still a little bit of a problem, and I will just show you what it is. And once the game actually starts, okay, still okay, still not working. For Unity engine.ui.text.text, okay, if I like select it, you can see that it should have that text mesh pro text component should work. Let me select my player and make sure that actually I know what the problem is. So the set text method is wrong, and if I go ahead and call the actual set text method text mesh pro, because we are recording the norm, that kind of the thing that I hate about this system is that it doesn't really detect the type, so you need to set it to this, and you can just use it like that. And for this we can provide it with a with our string here, which should work. Okay, actually this is not the correct function, so go ahead and say text, and do not use the Unity engine.text one. Instead find the text mesh function, which takes a text mesh pro UGI set text, and find that method here, and you can see that it has got a bunch of methods, and well, there are a lot of methods, and you might want to use this one, which just takes a string builder, or you might want to take this, which takes a character array, but this one is the easiest one, which takes just a string. So once you have done that, you can just plug this up here, and yeah, that should work. So it thought that we were using a normal Unity legacy text, and it tried to use that, which didn't actually work. So let's try it out now, and hopefully it works. And yeah, you can kind of see what the problem is here. It's showing the actual decimal points after the score, which is something that we really don't want. So how can we fix it to only show the numeric, the actual number, and not the decimal point? Alright, so now with that done, we have got a nice thing, but still a little bit of a problem. So if I go under here, and after multiplying this, if I try to find a method called, let's try it out. It is okay. So doesn't exist. So let me just say to int, and well, we've got round to int option here. You can do floor to int. We are going to use the floor to int option, which will make it smaller always, and it should return us with an integer. So if I just remove this method and instead apply this, and let me just move this a little bit back, and then say to string, of course integer to string, and this should actually work, because now we are converting it to an integer by using the floor method, which always rounds it down instead of rounding it up, which is I think exactly what we want. So now if I hit play, this should actually start to immediately work. So let's try it out, and you can see that it's 0, and then it increases to 1, and then it increases to 2, and then to 3, and then to 4, and going with a the correct pace, and yeah, that's kind of working. So I think that for this video and the next video we will improve our obstacle spawning system, and then in the next video after that we can finish the game completely. So I will see you in the next video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and bye.